So here we are, 2 months ago at my first ever psychedelic ceremony. This was with Bufo medicine, also called toad medicine, which is a secretion of the Bufo alvarius toad. This carries the power to dissolve the ego, allowing for an intense, transformative experience. So through the 5-MeO DMT, it bypasses the mind's defenses. It unlocks deep emotional release and spiritual awakening. And let me tell you, some things happen during this ceremony. So let's back things up for a little bit. For years, I have been living with the guilt and shame of being a single mother. It has literally haunted me, especially after my second partner was deported, leaving me with 3 children to raise on my own. Once I had my fourth child and going through my third attempt of trying to create a happy home, and that failing, the weight of the overwhelm was just literally unbearable. I had to bury all of that anger, all of that bitterness, all of that just feeling of hopelessness. I had to bury that shit deep inside of me, just telling myself that, it is what it is, just so I can get by throughout the day. So 4 years later, I finally decided, you know what? It's time for me to go to therapy. And this was maybe a year after leaving my fourth baby father. I went to therapy. And for an entire year, I sat with that psychotherapist twice a week. I unpacked so much anger, so much tears, so much heartache, okay, around the emotional burden of raising 4 children on my own. It has just been so rocky. And, if you know me, you'd think that, oh, yeah, I'm good. Trisha has it together because while raising them, I went to school full time. I was working. I was functionally depressed, okay? And that's how I was able to get by. That was my way of coping. So after releasing all of that baggage for an entire year, I really thought that I had dealt with it all. But let me tell you, okay? This Bufo ceremony revealed otherwise. So, as a side note, I am participating in this ceremony with a trained shaman of 15 years and a licensed medical doctor. I personally would not have it any other way. Yeah, just kind of putting that in there. So, this sacred medicine really led me to a profound realization. The guilt and the shame that I was carrying was not only my own, it was deeply embedded in the matriarchs of my lineage. They too had to endure the domestic violence, the single motherhood, and the crushing weight of generational trauma. So as I went deeper and deeper, as you can see, I ended up taking off my shirt and everything because it was just like an explosive feeling just bursting out of me. My ancestors, their cries, their pain, and their resilience. It was just like my DNA was being cracked open and I was releasing the weight of the oppression and the pity and the failure that had been passed down through generations of women that had been silenced and forgotten in my lineage. I surrendered in this moment and I allowed space for my ancestors to come through and also to share their cries and their disappointments and their heartache and their pain. And this theme of, domestic violence and single motherhood that ran through my bloodline, this was a shared story. And for me, it wasn't just about being a single mother or facing domestic violence. It was about a deeper generational trauma that had been passed down through the women in my families whose partners had also hurt them and also left them raising children alone. And I think that's why this ceremony was so special, why the energy ran so deep, why my cries were so heartfelt because it wasn't just my own, you know? And I realized that, you know, healing is not just about confronting your wounds, you know, it's also about honoring your ancestors and understanding the shared experiences that live within your soul, you know, peeling back the layers when your spirit is ready, you know, and just allowing yourself to feel into those emotions and not only feel into them, but release them. You know, when I started to slowly, I don't want to say come out, but wake up from the medicine and start going through the motions of things, I began to spit. You know, that spit was an evidence of spirit being present. And it was also a way for me to release, you know, release the toxicity, release the pain. And, you know, it felt so, I honestly can't explain the feeling. It was almost like a feeling of ecstasy mixed with, you know, just the clearing of something that no longer belongs, you know, and having access to actually hold on to it and remove it once and for all, you know. And I felt that energy running through my veins, running through my blood. I felt the presence of my ancestors just moving with me as I was crying, as I was releasing, as I was smiling, as just everything. The Bufo ceremony, it really helped me realize that healing was not just mine to experience. It was the healing of my entire lineage. And it was such a beautiful feeling, you know.